This video is designed to provide you with an overview and snapshot of the different resources we will use during the CIR, and also how they are organized on the CIR resource sheet. The resource sheet is the most important document for you to have access to and to ensure is accurate before you go on your visit. In the folder that Jerry has created for you, you'll see a variety of Google Docs and forms. A Google Doc is the box with 3 lines. The form is the purple box. The documents that are in your folder here are the same documents behind the links that are highlighted. So each of these links goes to a document in this folder. The links that are not highlighted go to a separate folder, which is maintained by Jerry and Scott Warren. And that is right here. You will have access to this folder and all of its contents as read-only. So if you look at the resource document, this site coordinator checklist is actually taking you to the site coordinator checklist in here, which will be in Team Lead Tips, Site Coordinator Checklist. So that is the same. It's a Word document. So what you would have to do is download this if you wanted to make any adjustments to it. Or to print it, you can print it right here or download it as a Word document or create a new Google Doc if you so chose. So the thing to remember is that the highlighted phrases and links are to your folder, whereas the unhighlighted ones are static. The reason that they're in your folder is because you need to be able to enter data or collaborate on a doc. What I'd like to do now is go through these links briefly, but just take a minute talking about what they are and where they're used. So the overview is just that. It's the guide. So this is the full guide, and it actually takes you to a folder that has a PDF version of the guide as well as a Word version of the guide. And this is a 45-page document that you'll want to share with the principal and the district contact so they have the full vision of what to expect ahead of time. You also have a briefer overview of the CIR. This is sort of a 4-pager. It takes all the information in that guide and summarizes it in 4 pages. So this might be something that you give to maybe the teachers, or if you're sending it to the team ahead of time. Although you may also want to send the guide and this and say the full guide if you want to dig into that, as well as the overview as well. I showed you the site coordinator checklist. That's given to them several weeks ahead of time, and it lays out what type of data they want to bring, they need to have for you. Of course, the pre-visit PowerPoint is a template for a PowerPoint that you would give about 2 weeks before when you are talking to the principal and the site coordinator and introducing them to the process. There's a video in the Teaching Channel course that goes through that PowerPoint slide by slide. And then the orientation PowerPoint is for the day before you go and visit the classrooms, where you bring the team together and you describe to them exactly what their role is, what they're looking for. You would go through the observation form and how we're going to collect data. So these are all the big picture overview resources. Now we're into the data collection, which is self-assessment, CTE self-assessment. The first link is a rubric. That rubric is a set of items where they assess themselves. And I talk about this in the section on collecting the evidence in the teaching channel. They can either do it individually as a CTE teachers in the building, or they can all come together and self-assess as one group. That's the hard copy. Underneath it is what they'll actually enter their data into. So they need to have the hard copy in front of them and then enter the data into there. You'll want to email this to them, and you can simply copy this and email it to your site coordinator or principal to share with them ahead of the visit. So you have that data beforehand. This will actually need to be above that one, but the team member assignments is where you determine what everybody is going to do. So you'll have certain people, here's all the team members, and then the interview schedule, right? You'll list all of the times for the interviewers and who's going to do the interviewing, and then the observation, who's going to be the primary observers for each of these content areas, and then once you're done with that, then where do you go? We want to make sure we see all of everybody as much as possible, but if we have a big team or a small school and we get through our group quickly, then we have our secondary group. The analysis group is the people who analyze these pieces of evidence. So I might have a couple people looking at the surveys, a group of people looking at the results of the observations, a few people looking at the interviews, and another person or two looking at the assessment and assignments, looking at the results and determining promising practices and areas for growth. Ideally, you'll have the assignment and the survey done early so you can focus on observations and interviews. And then at the end of the day, we can split up into 5 groups where they go to one of the chart papers that are posted and do affinity mapping and thinking through the evidence that's been posted. The key thing I want to show here is that you want to print this out and use this as a worksheet to give everybody their assignments. The details of the different interviews and observations and evidence are described later. The key point here is use this worksheet to assign everybody their job before the first day, or on the morning of the observations, or the day before. And the personal schedule is a great resource to simply have in the folders for people to type in their schedule. That obviously link needs to be fixed, but that will be a personal schedule. And then we have observations. So you have the observation guide, which obviously the observation form, which you'll need to print out. So you'll want to have enough for everybody to do their observations. And then you have a little guide here. And this is for you, or you can share it with them, that discusses what it is we look for and what each section of the form means, and what are the key elements, and what are we talking about when we talk about literacy, math, and PBL. What is rigor? It's meant to be a cheat sheet overview for you, but you may want to use it to talk to them or give it to them. And then, of course, the form itself, which is where you enter the data through Google Drive. Definitely want to check this and make sure that Jerry has placed the name of the school at the top so that you're sending the information to the right place. Again, there's a deeper dive on all of this information throughout the course. This is just to give you an orientation to this form and discuss the resources it contains. The assessment review is done to see whether assignments are at the appropriate challenge level for students. And its focus is on DOK. So you have a rubric, and the rubric begins with an explanation of the levels of DOK, a little more details, and then has this is the actual rubric down here. What's nice is that when you go to the form in which you fill this out, all of that information is right here. So all the things we just saw on the hard copy are seen right here. So the people can just click on this link, look at the assessment itself that they're reviewing, and fill this out. And they fill out one, submit, go to the next assessment, fill out that one, submit, fill out, and submit. Artifacts of Collaboration is more informal. It's a Google Doc. It's not a form. So you simply have a folder where you ask them to say, how do you collaborate, and what are some artifacts you have to show that this is happening, and then you can just write notes about what you see. Faculty meetings, no artifacts. Department meetings, they seem to just be talking about prom. PLCs, high level of PLC, data-driven, very focused and purposeful. Things like that, based on the artifacts. The syllabus review is a way to see about how teachers set up their courses. Do they have extra help built in? Do they have clarity on projects and assignments and what type of work students are going to be doing? So you can use this doc and simply go through each course and do sort of like put a little 1 every time you see it, or an X for every assignment, or every syllabus for each thing that you see, or you can choose to use the syllabus and enter it. So there's a choice there of what you want to do. So you would say what course it is, and then say observed, not observed, observed, not observed. Again, there's a video in this course, that discusses how to use Google Forms, and how to access results. So if you want to access the results and you don't know how, you can view that. This is probably the most important doc that they're going to need access to, the interviews. The interviews is a Google Doc, and it means that everybody can type into it at exactly the same time. As described in another video, you'll need to make sure that you click share and you change this to can edit. And that way everybody can edit. If you don't do that, then they won't be able to edit it, and that'll be a problem. The evidence synthesis doc is part of the process of pulling everything together that you've collected. So this is another one that you'll need to share. Because after they have analyzed the evidence from the interviews, observations, assessments, surveys, self-assessments, syllabi, they say, okay, what have we learned? We've learned that a promising practice at this school is high quality literacy instruction. The evidence is assessment 1, assessment 2, survey, observation, right? Percent of classrooms using literacy for instruction. So this will be filled out immediately after the team has analyzed what's on the chart paper. And then finally, this is a great end-of-day summary. This is going to help you write your final report. By including this information, you will be able to have some sort of nuggets to include in the report that you may not capture in that synthesis document, or you may include that in the synthesis document. Personally, I've had trouble remembering to do this.